My friends, imagine a man lost in the wilderness, stumbling through thorns and brambles, bruised and weary. He curses the path, wondering why he was ever led this way. Yet when he finally reaches a clearing, he finds himself on the very doorstep of home. Only then does he realize that every painful step was leading him to safety. How often do we grumble at our troubles, mistaking them for enemies when they are in truth our teachers? We cry out asking why we must endure suffering, yet if we could see the whole picture, we might find that our trials were never meant to harm us, but to strengthen us. A man who has never faced hardship is like a tree that has never faced the wind, weak, shallow-rooted, easily toppled by the first storm. But the tree that has stood through tempests, that has bent without breaking, grows deep roots. So it is with the soul. Consider this: the sculptor must strike the marble with his chisel to bring forth beauty. The blacksmith must place the iron in the fire to make it strong. And so too must we be shaped and tempered by the difficulties of life. It is not cruelty, but craftsmanship. Of course, this is easy to say when the storm has passed, but hard to believe when we are in its midst. When we are suffering, we see no pattern, no purpose, only darkness. But I ask you, have you ever looked back on your life and seen how a trial you once resented became the very thing that shaped you into who you are today? We must remember that what feels like misfortune may in time reveal itself as grace. The very thing we beg to be spared from might be the thing that saves us. And if we learn to endure with patience, we may one day find that our trials were not punishments, but blessings in disguise. So let us not despise our difficulties, but rather meet them with courage, knowing that though we walk through fire, we do not walk alone, and on the other side we will emerge stronger, wiser, and grateful. Suffering, though unwelcome, is often the greatest teacher a person can encounter. It enters our lives uninvited, disrupts our comforts, and forces us into situations we would never willingly choose. Yet, paradoxically, it is through suffering that we grow in ways we never thought possible. Comfort and ease do not challenge us. They do not stretch our limits or force us to examine our inner selves. But suffering, whether it be in the form of loss, failure, disappointment, or hardship, demands something of us. It compels us to confront our deepest fears, to question our assumptions, and to search for meaning in the face of pain. When we are at ease, we assume that the world will always cater to our expectations. We take for granted our health, our relationships, our possessions, and even our sense of purpose. It is only when something is taken from us that we begin to realize its value. A man who has never known hunger does not truly appreciate a meal. A person who has never been lonely does not cherish companionship as deeply as one who has walked the road of solitude. Suffering, by stripping us of our illusions, exposes the true nature of our attachments and forces us to reevaluate what truly matters. There is something about pain that has the power to refine character. Those who have suffered deeply often carry with them a wisdom that cannot be learned in books or taught in lectures. They understand endurance, patience, and humility in a way that no mere intellectual knowledge can provide. A man who has never struggled may believe himself strong, but true strength is only revealed when it is tested. It is in hardship that we discover our own resilience, that we learn the depths of our ability to persevere. Suffering also has a way of breaking down pride. When everything is going well, we are tempted to believe that we are in control, that we are the masters of our own destiny. But suffering humbles us. It reminds us of our frailty, our limitations, our dependence on forces beyond our control. A person who has never faced suffering may walk through life with a sense of entitlement, believing that success is their right. But one who has suffered understands that life does not operate according to our demands. They learn gratitude for even the smallest blessings, knowing how easily those blessings can be taken away. Moreover, suffering teaches empathy. There is a reason why those who have suffered great losses often become the most compassionate. When a person has known pain, they recognize it in others. They understand what it means to feel abandoned, to struggle in silence, to wrestle with doubt and despair. Because of this, they are more likely to extend kindness, to listen without judgment, to offer a helping hand. The most hardened heart can be softened through suffering, for it reveals our shared humanity, stripping away the illusion that we are separate from one another. Beyond personal growth, suffering often leads to unexpected wisdom. In our darkest moments, we are forced to confront the deepest questions of existence. Why do we suffer? What is the purpose of pain? Is there meaning in hardship, or is life merely a series of random misfortunes? Such questions do not arise in times of ease. When life is comfortable, we do not feel the need to search for meaning, but suffering shakes us awake. It forces us to look beyond the surface, to question the very foundations of our beliefs. Many of the greatest thinkers, writers, and leaders throughout history have found their deepest insights in the crucible of suffering. It is not when everything is going well that wisdom is born, but when a person has been stripped of certainty and forced to wrestle with life's hardest truths. Suffering, however, is not merely about pain, it is about transformation. Just as fire refines gold by burning away impurities, suffering refines the soul by stripping away all that is unnecessary. It forces us to let go of illusions, of false securities, of trivial concerns. It shows us what we are truly made of and, in doing so, prepares us for greater things. The individual who has endured great suffering and emerged from it with strength is not the same as they were before. They have been changed, shaped, and deepened by the experience. Yet, for suffering to be a teacher, one must be willing to learn. It is possible to suffer and gain nothing from it, to become bitter, resentful, or hardened. But those who allow suffering to instruct them find that it carries within it an unexpected gift. They develop patience, for they have learned that pain does not last forever. They gain resilience, for they have faced despair and survived. They acquire wisdom, for they have seen life from a perspective that only suffering can provide. Thus, suffering is not an enemy, though it may feel like one. It is, in its own way, a guide, one that leads us to deeper understanding, greater compassion, and truer strength. It is through suffering that we are shaped into who we are meant to be, not despite it. Perspective is the lens through which we interpret the world, shaping our understanding of events, people, and even ourselves. It determines whether we see difficulties as insurmountable obstacles or opportunities for growth. The same situation can appear entirely different depending on the mindset with which we approach it. A person who believes that hardship is meaningless will experience suffering as pure misfortune, while another who sees trials as lessons will find wisdom even in pain. Our perspective does not change reality itself, but it does change our experience of it. Two individuals may go through the exact same struggle, yet one emerges stronger while the other is left broken. The difference lies not in the circumstance, but in the way they choose to see it. In moments of adversity, the natural reaction is often to resist, to see ourselves as victims of unfairness. It is easy to dwell on misfortune, to believe that our suffering has no purpose. But perspective offers an alternative way of looking at hardship. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" one might ask, "What can I learn from this?" Instead of viewing a setback as failure, one might see it as a necessary step towards something better. This shift in thinking does not eliminate pain, but it does transform it. Pain that is seen as purposeless is unbearable, but pain understood as part of growth becomes more tolerable. When we shift our perspective, we are no longer passive victims of circumstance, we become active participants in our own development. History is filled with stories of individuals who faced enormous hardships yet emerged with a profound sense of purpose. The difference was not that they avoided suffering, but that they saw it through a different lens. A person who loses everything might fall into despair, or they might see their loss as a chance to rebuild something new. Someone who faces repeated failures might conclude that they are incapable, or they might see each failure as a lesson leading them closer to success. The way we interpret our struggles determines what we take from them. If we view life as a series of random misfortunes, we will find nothing but frustration. But if we believe that every difficulty carries a hidden lesson, then even our lowest moments become valuable. Perspective is not just about how we see challenges, but also about how we view our own role in them. It is easy to believe that external circumstances are entirely responsible for our suffering. We might blame bad luck, unfair systems, or the cruelty of others. While these factors may be real, focusing solely on them robs us of power. When we recognize that we have control over our response, we regain agency. We may not choose our hardships, but we do choose how we interpret and react to them. This shift in mindset can make all the difference between feeling helpless and finding strength. The way we see time also shapes our experience of difficulty. When we are in the middle of suffering, it feels endless. A moment of deep pain can seem like it will stretch on forever. But with distance, we gain perspective. What once seemed unbearable often looks different in hindsight. A failure that felt devastating in the moment may later be understood as a necessary redirection. A painful loss may eventually reveal itself as the beginning of unexpected blessings. The challenge is to adopt this long-term view even in the midst of hardship, to remember even when suffering feels overwhelming, that time often reveals meaning where we once saw none. Perspective also affects our relationships. How we interpret the actions of others can determine whether we harbor resentment or extend understanding. If we assume that people act purely out of malice, we will be quick to take offense. But if we consider that others, like ourselves, are shaped by their own struggles, fears, and misunderstandings, we become more compassionate. A slight that once seemed intentional may be seen instead as the result of another person's own pain. The ability to shift our perspective in this way leads to greater patience, forgiveness, and inner peace. Even in everyday life, perspective shapes our sense of gratitude. A person who focuses on what they lack will always feel discontented, no matter how much they have. But someone who chooses to see what they do have will find contentment even in the simplest of things. The same life can feel either full or empty, depending on what we choose to focus on. Perspective does not change our circumstances directly, but it does change our experience of them. Difficulties are inevitable, but suffering is not merely about what happens to us. It is about how we perceive it. The mind is powerful in shaping our reality. Two people may endure the same storm, but one sees only destruction while the other sees a chance to rebuild. Our struggles may not be in our control, but the meaning we give them is. This is the power of perspective. Strength is not something that appears in the absence of struggle, but something that is forged through it. A person who has never faced resistance, hardship, or difficulty remains untested, much like a tree that has never encountered wind. It is only through facing adversity that true resilience is built. Just as a muscle grows stronger when it is pushed beyond its limits, the human spirit develops endurance when it is forced to confront and overcome difficulties. Without struggle, there is no need for strength. Without resistance, there is no growth. The very challenges that seem to break a person are often the ones that build them, shaping them into something far greater than they would have been otherwise. When a person lifts heavy weights, the muscles experience strain, and in response, they grow stronger. The process is painful, but it is necessary. If one were to avoid all effort, the body would remain weak, incapable of bearing any burden. The same principle applies to life's struggles. The difficulties one faces may seem unbearable at the time, yet with each challenge, a hidden strength is being cultivated. The person who learns to endure hardship develops a resilience that cannot be gained in comfort. Those who have faced adversity and survived it walk through life with a quiet confidence, knowing that they are capable of withstanding more than they once thought possible. Struggle teaches lessons that ease never could. When everything is simple, there is no need to adapt, to find solutions, or to develop patience. A life without hardship may seem desirable, but it would leave a person unprepared for the inevitable challenges that come with existence. The strongest individuals are not those who have never suffered, but those who have suffered and emerged stronger because of it. They have learned to push forward even when everything seems against them. They have discovered that pain, though uncomfortable, is not the enemy, it is a teacher. Adversity has a way of revealing one's true character. When things are easy, it is simple to appear strong, kind, or patient. But when difficulty arises, the real self is exposed. Some break under the weight of hardship, while others rise to meet it. The difference often lies not in external circumstances, but in the internal decision to persist. Struggle forces a person to confront their fears, to acknowledge their weaknesses, and to either give in or grow stronger. It is through overcoming obstacles that a person learns what they are truly capable of. The greatest achievements in history have often been the result of immense struggle. Those who have reached the highest levels of success, whether in art, science, leadership, or personal growth, have almost always endured great hardship. The writer who produces a masterpiece has likely faced countless rejections. The athlete who stands victorious has endured years of relentless training and setbacks. The leader who inspires millions has likely faced moments of deep doubt and adversity. Their strength did not come from avoiding struggle, but from embracing it. Each difficulty they encountered became another step in their journey, another opportunity to grow. Struggle also builds emotional and mental fortitude. A person who has never faced disappointment may crumble at the first sign of failure, but someone who has experienced failure repeatedly and learned to rise again develops an unshakable determination. They no longer fear setbacks because they have learned that setbacks are not the end. They understand that pain is temporary, that difficulty can be overcome, and that even the hardest moments pass with time. This understanding is not gained in comfort, but in struggle. Beyond individual growth, struggle also deepens one's empathy and understanding of others. A person who has known hardship recognizes it in others. They understand what it means to feel lost, to doubt, to struggle against forces beyond their control. Because of this, they are more likely to extend kindness, to offer encouragement, and to stand as a source of strength for those who are still in the midst of their battles. Strength gained through struggle is not just personal. It has the power to inspire and uplift others as well. It is easy to wish for a life free of hardship, but such a life would be incomplete. Strength does not come from ease, but from endurance. The person who embraces struggle as part of growth will find themselves equipped to handle whatever life brings. They will no longer fear difficulty because they will have learned that it is through struggle that true strength is formed.